everyone. My name is Terry Oblins. I'm with the York County History Center. I'd like to welcome you today to our Articles of Confederation Day. This is a day that we take every year about this time of year, November, to celebrate the Articles of Confederation, which is our first Constitution. I'd like to thank you all because you're showing support of this wonderful document by being here and supporting all the programming that we're doing. I also wanted to draw your attention to a House resolution that we just received this week that was introduced by Carol Hill Evans, and she was able to vote, or the legislature was able to vote on this resolution to make November 15th Articles of Confederation Day in Pennsylvania. So we're really proud to have this resolution. At the end of the play. I'd like to now introduce Distaff Side.
Thank you all for coming. I have a little bit of history to tell you about the building. First of all, this is a replica of the courthouse. The original courthouse stood where the square is now, a circle at that time. And due to progress, they decided they were going to knock it down. But during the time since bicentennial of the United States happened, my father, John Rawhauser, was president of the Bicentennial Commission. And the Bicentennial Commission worked very hard to have this replica of the building built because they wanted people to know how important work is in our country's history. And every year after that, they have some kind of a celebration to celebrate the Articles of Confederation. Exactly 44 years ago, there was a woman, some of you may know her. Her name was Helen Miller Gotwalt. She is from York. She was an English teacher at Camden. There's a little bit of write-up about her in here. She was also my dad's English teacher. But she loved to write, and she wrote over 300 plays. Many of them are her children. But exactly 44 years ago, she wrote Distaff Side, which is the play you're going to see today. This is a picture of the original cast, and I have to tell you, she was an English teacher, and she's probably rolling over now because when they had it printed, they printed the original. They saw you roll out. So I'm sorry, Alice. But this is the original cast, and the names of the original people and their signatures who were in here. My mom was actually one of the people to the play at that time as well. So I welcome you to the Distaff Side, and please enjoy hearing history from women's point of view. The women who are in these plays are portraying the wives and sisters of delegates who were here at York at that time. So enjoy. And I'm going to introduce Sensei, who is our director.
It's my privilege to direct this play. Almost everyone in it, with two exceptions, is an attorney. As a result of that, I knew that when I went into this project that they would not have time to rehearse as much as other people would, and that they would never learn their lines. So I decided to make it Reader's Theater. So you see those holding scripts, that's why it's a Reader's Theater version of the play. Standard stuff, no cell phones, please turn them off so they don't break during the performance. But what you can do is if you want to take photographs, there's no problem. Just feel free to take photographs. Okay? Without any further ado, I introduce the cast.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for coming. Permit me to introduce myself. My name is Eleanor Armour Smith. You may not remember me, but I know you remember my husband. Every 4th of July, you assemble at the First Presbyterian Church to honor him. James Smith, member of the Continental Congress and signer of the Declaration of Independence. Although my name is inscribed on the same stone, I dare say few of you have noticed it, but no matter. I also wish to introduce my good friends, Catherine Holsinger Hartley and Margaret Binninger Clark. Since all three of us lived in Yorktown during the months of 1777 and 1778, when our little village served as the first capital of these United States. This courthouse, which you have so faithfully reconstructed, is of deep significance. Were it not for the vision of 20th century patriots, there would be little to remind us of those glorious and difficult days. Our homes are gone, our taverns have disappeared, our churches and houses of worship, for the most part, have been rebuilt, remodeled, or replaced by more spacious and imposing structures. This building spans the centuries. It serves as a tangible link between the past and the present and the future. We have taken the liberty of looking at your guest book. It contains the names of men, women, and children from 50 states and many foreign lands. Their numbers totaling many more of the entire population of Yorktown that we knew. Statesmen, public officials, historians, scholars, people of every rank and station have visited this building to honor the men who drafted and adopted our first Constitution, the Articles of Confederation, over 200 years ago. By tour guides and your strange means of electronic devices, all of these visitors have heard the words of John Hancock, Henry Lawrence, John and Samuel Adams, Dr. John Witherspoon, the Lees of Virginia, and other delegates whose decisions created a new nation and affected generations yet unborn. By the telling and retelling of what those men did here, you have clothed that in reality so that even the most casual visitor feels himself in the presence of greatness. But today, you will be hearing new voices, voices that have never been heard in this courtroom. By certain devices known only to ourselves, we, the women of Yorktown, have arranged a very special tour for some very special ladies. In a few minutes, we will present some of the courageous women who prayerfully watched and waited for their menfolk to return from Congress. These are the women who comforted them in sickness and in health, who bore and reared their children, managed their estates, ran their households, and suffered their long patience as they could muster. And now, if you will please excuse me, I will join Miss Elizabeth Roberdeau and Mistress Eva Swote to welcome the ladies who will present the Distaff Side of those crucial days that their husbands spent here in Yorktown. The flowers look lovely, Eva. You do have a way with them.
Thank you. I find them most unseemingly, and on the judge's table, no less. What would Mr. Smith say?
Whatever Mr. Smith would say, he's not here to say it. So that's the end.
He's not. Whatever. If you are still determined to serve tea, Eleanor, will you put the piano on?
Of course we'll have tea, Elizabeth. Our guests will need some refreshment. Do be careful, child. That's my best china. Put it down here on the secretary's table, and we'll ask Mrs. Thompson to do the honors. May I pass the sweetmeats, Aunt Elizabeth?
If you could refrain from eating, that means little maid. Art.
I'll try, ma'am.
I fear we will be a laughing stock.
Calm yourselves, ladies. There is no need to be so flustered. You who have shared your homes with and hospitality with some of the greatest men of our time should feel no qualms about entertaining their wives. Mr. Stanton Harrison Thompson of Philadelphia, quickly, ladies, to your posts and smile. This way, Anthony, please.
Well done.
Welcome to Yorktown.
Oh, thank you, Mistress Swope. Just very like our steakhouse. Smaller, of course. But the furnishings,
the candlesticks, the cloisonne stands, even the green gates covers. You are to be congratulated, ladies. I've inspected much more primitive conditions.
Although many of the gentlemen complain mightily, we did our best to accommodate Congress and supply their needs. Would you care to take your place at the secretary's table?
My guess, how thoughtful. I came early so that I might take notes on all the proceedings. Dear Mr. Costin, you know he is so particular about his records.
Please pray be seated.
But my good woman, this is not a writing desk. This is a tea table.
Please, Mistress Thompson, we meant no disrespect, but today's an informal meeting. It's purely a social gathering, strictly off the record, so to speak. Since your husband served in Congress for 15 years, far longer than any other member or official, we know that everything looks forward with you. So we therefore will commit you would do the honor of presiding at a tea table. However, if that duty is distasteful to you, perhaps we could persuade Mr. Hancock to oblige.
On second thought, my dear, I suddenly find the idea quite charming. Now that I recall, Mr. Tyson himself was not adverse to a cup of tea upon occasion.
Thank you, madam. You are most gracious.
Tell me, I didn't catch the name.
Smith. Mrs. James Smith.
Well, tell me, Mrs. Smith, was your husband perchance a lawyer?
He was indeed, ma'am. Although not a Philadelphia lawyer, he was a very good one.
I thought as much. The technique is unmistakable.
The ladies from Massachusetts have arrived. Quickly, Eva, the kettle is boiling. May I present Dorothy Quincy Hancock and Mrs. Abigail Adams and Mrs. Elizabeth Wells Adams.
Good afternoon. I'm Elizabeth Roberdeau, and permit me to welcome you all to UNCOM.
We are deeply honored, Mr. Hancock.
Thank you, madam. And there is someone I would very much like to meet.
Well, first may I show you to your seat on the dais.
Roberdeau, did you say Roberdeau? Yes, my brother, General Daniel Roberdeau, served here. With your husband, ma'am.
How well I know. Look, Betsy, look. This is one of the ladies who was so gracious to my John and to your Samuel when they lodged as a revolution.
We owe you our gratitude, ma'am.
How often my good man wrote to me of your kindness and hospitality. He found himself most fortunate to be so comfortably situated.
I fear you found these quarters overcrowded. What with having Mr. Geary, Mr. Harrison, and Mr. Lee, we were really pastoral. And then there were my brother's children.
Ah, yes, the children. Poor motherless lambs. Poor John did so much, his own little ones, constantly praying they would not remember him at all if he stayed away much longer. I seem to remember he mentioned a little girl that reminded him of his own dear Nappy. Nancy? Was her name not Nancy?
I mean, Mrs. Adams. And I remember Mr. Adams left. He sometimes taught me floppy.
Nancy, you will mind your manners.
Oh, it's quite all right, Miss Roberdeau. Children will be children. Perhaps we can have a nice chat later. Child, now run along and find yourself useful. Her brother was a good friend of my husband. They killed each other in the highest esteem.
He was such a hands full, keeping house for your dear brother, and I trust my husband was not too great a trial. A most untidy man, Mr. Adams, always throwing his things about. Careless his appearance.
I do recall his coat and breeches seldom matched, but then he did have more important things on.
That he did. Freedom, independence. Never a lot or clothes on his back, or food for his family. Liberty, that is all that mattered.
So come, Bestie, we must not monopolize in Miss Riverdale.
Would you ladies care to join Mr. Hancock on the dais?
Oh, no, thank you. I wish only to sit where my John sat and spend my time where he spent his.
That would have been in Menendez Law, Stam, which was occupied by the Great Wars. But here in Congress, the delegates were seated from north to south. So the Massachusetts gentlemen would have been seated
Jan. Huh, thank goodness, I have no wish to be so conspicuous. Up and get Mistress Elizabeth Montgomery. Mistress Laura Wolcott. Present their compliments.
And that one left to be played.
This way, ladies. Mr. Witherspoon, your place awaits you at the New Jersey table, and you, Madam Goldblatt, you represent the fine state of Connecticut.
What this to us, me really bones on a solid surface that neither goes back and forth up and round.
Oh, dear Mr. Witherspoon does not take kindly.
He had the good Lord intended us to gallivant around the globe. He would have given us our wings while you were yet on the surf.
Perhaps you could a cup of hot tea?
Yea, thank ye kindly, ma'am. But crossing the Atlantic has, from my native Scotland, has taught me to travel on it.
I will accept your offer to eat gladly, then with lender, but trying hospitality, flowers, a tea table, and lender Mr. Wilcox found this little town being passport pleasant. Well, a period warming plates and compliments in these days. Some of the gentlemen most difficult, please.
I trust Mr. Hancock was not one of them.
Nay, madam, but your husband was so busy, he scarce knew where he was. When he was not here in the courthouse, he was up his rough, writing.
I can well imagine. Sometimes the man wrote me 2 letters in a single day. But I'm happy to know you found him an agreeable tenant.
And such a handsome gentleman he was. Folks hear about other real dandies with his fine clothes and fancy ways.
That was my Johnny to a T. King Hancock, they used to call him. Soon after our arrival in Philadelphia, the Tories were singing, Yankee Doodle came to town for to buy a firelock. We will tar and feather him, and so we will, King Hancock.
Nor would they have spelled with tar and feathers if they caught either John Hancock or Samuel Adams. They both would have been hanged higher than the hangings. It's a bitter crazy thing to know that there's a price on their husbands.
Oh, but praise God, none of them were ever taken. The flight to Yorktown saved them all from the hangman. And what is more, their precious documents were safe and sound. Charles Thompson would have guarded the Declaration of Independence with his very life.
The delegation from the southern states is now arriving. Mrs. Ann Painter Lee of Virginia. My sister-in-law, Mrs. Frances Lightfoot Lee, begs you to accept her regrets.
We will miss her company.
I am sure you wish to speak with Mrs. Thompson, wife of Secretary John Thompson at the tea table, and I trust the other ladies will introduce themselves. Mrs. Mary Darnell Corral of Carrollton, Maryland. How good of you to come. You look a little pale, my dear. Would you like some smelling salts? No, I would be quite all right. Perhaps I should not make this journey in my precarious state of health, but I could not resist your invitation. Mr. Mary Middleton of South Carolina. What a pleasure. You have indeed come a long distance.
I could not bear to see our great state unrepresented at this unique gathering.
And Mrs. Mary Barnett of North Carolina. So this is the place? This is that hateful courtroom that my poor Cordelius worked and fretted away all those weary hours, day after day, till 10 or 11 at night, bone tired, no rest. Please, God. Oh, I pray forgive me, ma'am. I should not let myself get so out of sorts. But his letters, they were so pitiful. They were so full of loneliness. All he wanted was to return to his family, to sit under his own fig tree. And then, when he returns, he told them there was so little flying, captured in the open Williams, and his body brought back to me like a sack of grain from a frozen saddle. There, one dearie. Try to compose yourself. See how ashamed he never should have come. Oh, I think this will be very good for you to chat with the other ladies. Come have a seat over there in North Carolina. Well, I do believe that's the last of my visitors. And
And now I'm perishing for a cup of tea.
Oh, happy to serve you, ma'am. Was your husband in attendance here?
But not as delicate, and although Major Clark did have some business to conference, after the movie said that Randy wanted to force him to retire from active duty, General Washington recommended him to Congress for special assignment.
Indeed, the general must have thought highly of him.
And for good reason. The Major operated a successful spy ring in and around Philadelphia. His advancements of Warren Howe's movements saved the day for Washington on more than one occasion.
I trust he is generously rewarded.
Congress assigned him to audit and settle the money accounts for the main army, but since no funds were appropriated, he was obliged to pay for all of his traveling expenses out of his own pocket. However, the praise of his commander-in-chief was rewarded after John Clark. How is this advancing, child? You scared the wits out of me.
Nancy Roberdeau, you'll want yourself home this very instant.
It was an accident, and it was that boys, the fellow was sort of, well, the body itself.
Pray do not scold the child, Miss Roberdeau.
There is no excuse for such behavior. She has been taught to know their place.
It was I who bade the little maid to sit next to me, because I have a fondness in my heart for little girls. You see, we lost our firstborn, our dear, dear Lydia, shortly before Congress came to Yorktown. Do let her stay. I'll bid her good behavior.
As you wish, Mistress Hancock. Though it's against mine unpleasant.
It occurs to you, ladies, that we must interpret the ringing of that bell as a signal to bring this meeting to some semblance of order, lest, like our husbands, we be criticized for wasting time.
Wasting time? John Adams never wasted a minute in his life. Who would dare make such an accusation?
The members themselves were their own worst critics. My own husband, for one. I remember his very words, how Congress did worse than ever. They murdered time. They chat away in idle, impertinent talk.
Idle and impertinent talk indeed. I assure you, the debates over the Articles of Confederation were neither idle nor impertinent. For issues were at stake.
But as many as if there were delegates.
The smaller colonies took stakes against the larger.
The North against the South. Delegate against delegate. Even within the same colony. Remember, Betsy, how John and Addie would disagree so violently?
And yet, in only 45 days after coming to Yorktown, those opposite creatures managed to settle the differences which had divided them for more than 15 months in Philadelphia.
Conciliation, that was the secret. Yield to each other, my husband warned, or confederation will be impossible.
A rope of stand, Mr. Adams called it, prophesizing that dissolution would take place before 10 years had passed.
Well, for once, Mistress Emmons, your husband was wrong. The articles were placed for 12 years, until 1789. Now, like Coriolis knew, as well as any man alive, that the articles were neither perfect nor permanent, but they were the best that could be adapted at the time to the circumstances of law.
He was so right, Mrs. Harnett. And even though my theory is that war with us in Maryland was the very act to ratify, may I remind you that there was one article which was never challenged, never questioned. Ladies, I give you Article 1.
This dial of this Confederacy shall be the United States of America. Hear, hear!
We have your attention. Our next visitor is no stranger to Yorktown. It is my privilege to introduce Madam Elizabeth Phillips Gates.
I must apologize for my somewhat tardy arrival. I could not bear to miss our house across the way where General Gates and I resided while he entered his work as the president of the Board of War. But I am truly even more delightful than I had remembered. And how wonderful it is to renew my Yorktown acquaintances, Mr. Stoberdale, Mr. Hartley, and the good Mistress Jim Smith. So lovely.
We have saved a seat for you in the dais, next to Mr. Hancock.
Why, thank you.
Mr. Hancock. Aye, madam. Dolly Hancock at your service.
Forgive me, I assumed that you were Madam Lawrence.
No, President Lawrence succeeded Mr. Hancock late when he resigned last October.
Forgive me, but his wife. Lawrence was a widower, madam. Providence deprived him of his beloved wife, while yet we were loyal subjects to the king. She was spared all the knowledge of the trials and tribulations the rest of us endured.
Poor lonely man. I can still remember seeing him walk across the square on his walking stick, or being carried wildly through ice and snow to perform his duties. Did the poor man have a bullet in his leg? That would be a shadow. He's suffering from me now. As did like Cornelius, and nearly half the men's Congress the one time.
A device of the devil, Mr. Witherspoon, hold it.
Mr. Smith, I recall writing to me from Philadelphia that Mr. Hancock recommended early bud tea as a sure cure for gout and rheumatism.
And precious good it did. John Hancock rode the whole way from Yorktown to Boston with his swollen foot propped up and wrapped in baize to ease his suffering. Pine bud tea, poppycock.
My husband was a doctor of medicine, but I doubt his concoctions were any more effective. But speaking of tea, Nancy dear, may I have another cup of tea? And yes, tell me what can remember about my husband, Dr. Wolf. I'm supposed to be seen and not heard.
All right, Nancy.
Dr. Wolf wrote me a letter about you. He told me he repeats you over and over again, especially reminding you so much. Do you remember? Madam, he was a very nice gentleman, although he had a scratchy beard and sometimes too snub. But some people I well believe. Though I'm thankful to say, to please me, finally renounced the this practice.
My confidence in you. She's a rare woman to appreciate her husband's act, determinations. Would I have been so successful in convincing John Adams to change the attitude towards the independence of women?
Independence for women. Surely you must be joking.
Mr. Adams took much the same view of the letters I heard him on the subject, but the tyrannical nature of their sexes is no laughing matter. What better brief than that these very men who proclaim liberty and independence for a nation should retain absolute power over their lives, denying us equal freedom to rule our own lives and control our own destiny.
There is much wisdom in what you say, madam. All those arguments about slavery, debating whether slaves be counted as property or population, was all the while women like us were treated as mere chattel, to be treated only as the vassals of her lord at the mere mercy of the master.
Ladies, I am certain Mr. Towson would not have countenanced such talk. Did not St. Paul bid us submit ourselves unto our husbands as unto the Lord?
Aye, to be sure, St. Paul, like John Adams, never thought to quote him in his arguments against what he called the despotism of the Vatican.
And I'd hate to think how long any of them could have managed without that despotism. In a single day, whilst in Philadelphia, James Smith managed to lose his cane, his best hat, and $37 in paper money, none of which I venture to say would have happened had I been there to look after him.
Indeed, man, most men are miserable, helpless creatures without their women folk. I know from Dr. Woolhouse letters how sorely he missed my care and counsel. But alas, that the responsibility of running the farm and looking after the children, I was prevented from joining him. I dare say I was much more fortunate to be able to join the general whenever he needed me.
Was not such travel hazardous in your time?
Hazardous and arduous, ma'am, but my son Robert accompanied me on the journey, and without him I would never have managed the 400 miles between Virginia and Albany after Saratoga.
Gates at Saratoga, the people went mad with joy. Defeat after defeat and then glorious victory. General Horatio Hayes, the greatest military mind in America.
Please, please, Mistress Witherspoon, no more. Even after 200 years, such praise invites comparison. Comparison with our Commander-in-Chief, General George Washington. And 'twas such praise that virtually destroyed my husband.
But what have I done?
Well, I know only too well what Dr. Rush has said, and what James Lovell has said, and what Thomas Mifflin has said, and what many others have said here in Congress. And ere had they finished, my poor, unsuspecting Horatio was hopelessly caught up in the coils of that scheming monster, Thomas Conway. Conway Canal, indeed. I wish I could have got my hands on him who coined that fateful phrase.
I'd like to get my hands on the historian too, Elizabeth. But rest assured, more Americans remember Horatio Gates and Saratoga than ever heard it with Conway Canal.
Nevertheless, they cost us dear. The confidence of General Washington, the personal friendship with Martha, and the respect of that young firebrand Lafayette. When I think of how I managed on practicing nothing to produce a proper banquet in his honor, I know I wish he almost had choked on his precious toast. I know, the toast that saved the nation, they call it now. But I ask you, ladies, who really saved the nation? Was it not Horatio Gates and Saratoga that turned the tide?
I declare, Mr. Seeds, there is much wisdom in what you say. You are a veritable Patrick Henry.
Very much truth could not put out a bit of fallacy. It is true enough that the defeat of Burgoyne at Saratoga was a boon to our negotiations with France and a betrayal blow to Great Britain. But in truth and fairness, I must remind you, was the Connie John Witherspoon prevented the prisoners of war from sailing back to England, and thereby prevented reinforcements for the enemy. But 'twas never any single man of his own self did save this nation. Not General Gates, not George Washington, not Thomas Jefferson, not Lafayette. 'Twas all of them together and many, many more. 'Twas a little band of homesick men in this very room, struggling with insurmountable problems, times past the Articles of the Confederation, but yet gravely refusing to entertain any offer of peace that did not involve complete independence. It was the heartsick, starving army at Valley Forge and the wives and mothers who prayed for them every night. It was all of us. It was you, Mr. Salvailco, the smallpox, doing the chores, making the soap and saltpeter, grieving over a stillborn daughter, sending your eldest son to France to the father you so dear in this. And you, that is the Adams, living in poverty while your husband looked common good against his own family's welfare. It was you, Hannah Thompson, giving up your bridegroom while yet nowhere honeymoon. And you, Mistress Carroll, shouldering the responsibilities that taxed your strength beyond endure. It was you, Mary Middleton, and you, Anne Lee, running the plantations, educating his children, seeing to crops. It was you, Mary Bonnet, bearing your grief with the loss of your cousin in pain and loneliness, and you, Bellingham, putting on a brave front, bearing a child to a man with a price on his head. It was you, Laura Walcott. You and your friends made 42,000 bullets for rebel guns from the top of the leaden statue of King George.
More than 4,000, I believe, with Layla heads, but how did he come up?
Princeton, New Jersey, and Litchfield, Connecticut, not too far apart from news to travel. But I am not done. Also, it was my dear friend Julia Brush and her husband and father, both signers of the Declaration, and all the good folk of this frontier village, which even today is not fully accorded the honor it deserves. But really, ladies, who saved this nation? Not you, nor I, nor any single person, but it was Providence, and Providence alone, the divine hand of the Almighty, who gained us the victory and preserved us a people. May we ever remember to laud and magnify his name.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, our time is up. I truly thank you for telling the Distaff Side of the Yorktown story. You've told it well. I only wish we might leave some permanent reminder of our presence in this group. Some witness who might still speak for us while we rejoin the silence of the past.
Leafy, what is it, Chuck?
Oh, now the other lady stay. When we are gone, will she not speak for us?
What other lady?
What are you talking about? It's the lady up there? The blind lady, the sword. Do you know her name?
I shall. We know her name, and we know it well. Her name is Justice.
Justice, the finest instinct of the human heart.
Justice, beloved by free men since the dawn of time.
Justice, the object of our sacrifices and tears.
Justice, our men fought and died for her.
Justice, all that is accomplished in this little room was done in her name.
Justice, this very nation was created as her shrine.
Ladies, we have been honored beyond our very kin. Man has ever portrayed its most sacred ideal in female form. Though she carries a sword, she speaks in a woman's voice and with a woman's heart. Justice speaks for all of us, the few and the many, the rich and the poor, the weak and the strong, the free and the slave. Speaks out against tyranny, cruelty, evil, oppression, and all manner of unkindness. Because she is a woman, though her voice may be stern, her judgments will be tempered with mercy. We can leave here now with bold hearts and free minds. As long as she remains, we have our weeping.
And so, ladies and gentlemen, our brief visit is ended. This little building, the figure of justice, the old Godfrey Lenhart clock that ticked away hours while our menfolk labored here. We leave them in your keeping. Pray cherish them and guard them all. Perhaps in some far time, we will meet again. But now in parting, we reach out to you across the years, asking remembrance and dedication to the United States of America we know and love.
Thank you everyone for coming. My name is Victoria Connor. I'm the CEO for the York County Bar Association and Bar Foundation. We owe a lot of thanks this afternoon. First, I would like to thank our playwright, Helen Miller Gotwalt. Can you believe that after 44 years, it was Betty Stein and Doug Stein who brought us this idea to reenact this play. So thank you, Betty and Doug. My colleague and friend, the Executive Director Joan Mummer of the York County History Center, who could not be here, Terry Altman and the entire staff of the organization for partnering with us to produce this event, and of course, the York County Bar Foundation for sponsoring. But I would also like to thank the York County Bar Association for making it happen. And if someone could grab me those flowers, please. And Tom O'Shea, our director, come forward. For taking this ragtag group of women and turning us into stars today. Thank you. And let me introduce our cast for all of you. First, Eleanor Smith, Suzanne Price. Take a Marley, Jen Galloway. Clark, Andrea Fitzsimmons. Bermudo, Ben Lawson. Suzanne Smith. Hathaway. Anthony, played by Lee Zalman. Mary Cowell, played by our President Judge Maria Musty Cook.